Hello, and welcome to Changing Tracks, where we delve into the history of railways and how the layouts have changed. Today, we're going to be taking a trip to Birmingham to explore the Great Western Railway between Birmingham Snow Hill and Wolverhampton Low Level station. Before we go, of course, like and subscribe if you want to see further videos like this. Our train's about to leave, so let's go catch it. The first parts to open were in 1852, with the terminus at Snow Hill and the Oxford, Worcester and Wolverhampton Railway. In 1854, the whole line was opened between Snow Hill and Wolverhampton Low Level station, joining the Oxford, Worcester and Wolverhampton Railway at Priestfield. In 1862, a new station was opened in Bradeley and Moxley. In 1866, a connecting line was built towards Dudley, joining the South Staffordshire Railway, and a year later, a line was opened to Stourbridge. In 1915, Bradeley and Moxley station was closed. In 1931, Hawthorne's Halt opened, which was mainly used for football traffic. In 1962, the line from Priestfield towards Dudley was closed. In 1964, the line from Swan Village towards Dudley was closed, with Hawthorne's Halt closing 4 years later in 1968. In 1972, the final sections closed to passenger traffic, leaving just a few sections open for freight, which lasted until 1993. In 1987, a new terminus was opened at Snow Hill on a smaller scale. In 1995, Snow Hill became a through station again when the line was reopened back through to Stourbridge. In 1999, Snow Hill station was finally reconnected with Wolverhampton City with the opening of the West Midlands Metro. The line was first authorised as the Birmingham, Wolverhampton and Dudley Railway on the 3rd of August 1846, and quickly joined up with the Birmingham and Oxford Junction Railway, with both companies being bought out by the Great Western Railway in November of that year. Construction began in 1851 at Snow Hill, with the whole line being opened in 1854. The line was originally built with dual gauge track, being 7 feet and a quarter of an inch, and the standard gauge 4 foot 8.5 inches. The opening of the line was delayed by 2 months due to a bridge collapse near Soho and Winson Green, with Isambard Kingdom Brunel ordering other bridges to be strengthened. The line saw a heavy amount of traffic throughout its life as the main line for the Great Western Railway, and through nationalisation, with a sharp increase in traffic in the mid-1960s, whilst the rival Stour Valley line was electrified. However, after electrification of the Stour Valley line, many long-distance trains were routed away from the Snow Hill and Wolverhampton line, leaving just an infrequent shuttle service, which lasted until 1972, despite Richard Beechin recognising the railway as being of strategic importance. A few sections were kept open for freight traffic, but all passenger trains from Stourbridge, Wolverhampton, Shrewsbury, Rugby, Derby and Gloucester were routed into Birmingham New Street. In the 1980s, Birmingham New Street was facing a problem. The station was struggling to accommodate the increase in traffic as all through trains were calling there. So the decision was made to reopen Snow Hill Station to give central Birmingham an alternative terminus, but by the 1990s that wasn't enough to ease the pressure off New Street. So the Jewellery line was reopened in 1995, with Snow Hill becoming a through station once again, easing the pressure on New Street. We start here at Birmingham Snow Hill Station. The station was originally opened as Birmingham in 1852 and was extended through to Wolverhampton in 1854. 4 years later, the station was given its name of Birmingham Snow Hill, and in 1871, a new station was built on the same site. A more extensive rebuild occurred between 1906 and 1912, which coincided with the quadrupling of the line west of the station. However, the line through Snow Hill Tunnel itself remained as double track due to the original construction method of cut and cover, where a massive trench is carved through the city, then covered with a massive lid.
I knew I should have made a left turn at Albuquerque.
The station and the line proved pivotal for the Great Western Railway throughout its life, handling express trains to London Paddington and to Birkenhead via Shrewsbury. However, change was to come in the 1960s with the electrification of the Stour Valley Line. With electrification of the Stour Valley Line complete, services which used to call at Snow Hill were diverted into New Street, leaving Snow Hill with just a puny shuttle service to Wolverhampton and Stourbridge, which lasted until 1972. The station was left derelict for 15 years until a new station was built on a smaller scale in 1987 as the terminus of the line through the Snow Hill Tunnel. In 1995, Snow Hill became a through station again when the line was extended to Kidderminster via Stourbridge. Soon afterwards, Platform 4 was taken out of use for the West Midlands Metro to access their own terminus for trams to Wolverhampton, opening in 1999. In December 2015, the tram terminus was taken out of use when the West Midlands Metro was extended into Bull Street. Most of the old station was demolished except for this old station entrance and a section of wall on Livery Street.
The next station along is Jewellery Quarter. This station opened in 1995, but it replaced a previous station called Hockley, which opened in 1854 and closed in 1972.
The station opened with just 2 platforms until the rebuilding of Snow Hill Station in 1912, where the line was quadrupled. With rebuilding complete, there was 1 platform for the up main line and an island platform for the 2 relief lines. When the station closed in 1972, the area remained derelict until the 1990s, when works began to reopen the line from Snow Hill to Stourbridge. A new station was built 100 yards to the east to serve the Jewellery Quarter, an area of Birmingham with a population of 19,000 people and produces 40% of the UK's jewellery. Being so close to Birmingham, I imagine the average business insurance premium per year is
$100 billion.
In 1999, 2 more platforms were added when the Midland Metro was opened.
The next station along is Soho and Winston Green. The station opened in 1854 as Soho and was renamed in 1893 as Soho and Winston Green.
The station first opened with just 2 platforms. However, in 1912, with the quadrupling of the line, 2 new lines were added to the south with a new platform, as well as a pilot line for freight working. In 1964, trains to Dudley were withdrawn, and a year later the station was renamed as Winston Green, with the words Soho and crudely painted over with the toothbrush. In 1966, 24 trains each way ran between Wolverhampton and Birmingham, plus 14 services to Stourbridge, used by around 2,000 people per day. At the same time, there were proposals by the British Rail London Midland region to close the whole line and all stations on that line. The Transport Users Consultative Committee recommended that the line remain open as closure would cause extreme hardship in the area. In 1967, mainline trains were withdrawn and through freight diverted onto other lines in the area. The main lines were taken out of use, with all remaining traffic using the relief lines. 1969 saw all stations become unstaffed halts, including Birmingham Snow Hill. Stourbridge services were diverted to New Street, but a shuttle service remained to Langley Green, running every 2 hours before being reduced to 4 trains daily, as well as the shuttle service to Wolverhampton. And just like the rest of the line, in 1972, the station was closed and the site remained derelict for over 20 years. The early 90s saw the station site being cleared for the jewellery line to reopen in 1995, but a station was not provided until 1999 with the opening of the West Midlands Metro stop called Soho Benson Road.
Next station along is Handsworth and Smethwick. The station here opened in 1854 and closed in 1972.
The station was originally opened as just Handsworth, with the station being changed in 1890 to Handsworth and Smethwick. The station originally opened with just 2 platforms and a goods yard to the south. However, during quadrupling in 1912, 2 new lines were added to the south with an extra platform. In 1970, the main lines were removed, but the relief lines remained for freight traffic and the last remaining passenger services. The last passenger train to ever use the station was not in 1972, however. In October 1990, a special train was run from Birmingham New Street to Handsworth, reversing at Smethwick West for a charity walk from Snow Hill to Handsworth. A few years later, Works began to reopen the line from Snow Hill to connect with the line to Stourbridge at Smethwick West. However, Handsworth and Smethwick station was not reopened. In 1999, with the opening of the West Midlands Metro, a new stop was added called Handsworth Booth Street. To the east was a flyover which was built so that trains could still serve the Queen's Head sidings without clashing with the West Midlands Metro.
Next station along is Hawthorns. There was a halt here which opened in 1931 for a local derby between West Bromwich Albion and Birmingham City. If you don't want to know the score, then look away now. The score was 1-0 to Birmingham City, of course being the days before Wayne Rooney.
The station had a very unusual layout when it opened, with 3 platforms to the west of Halfords Lane and 1 platform to the east. The station closed in April 1968 and was replaced with Hawthorns Station in 1995, when the line from Stourbridge to Snow Hill was reopened. 2 new platforms were added in 1999 with the opening of the West Midlands Metro.
Next up, we have West Bromwich. The station opened in 1854 and closed in 1972 with the rest of the line. The formation was saved, however, with the creation of a linear park, which helped preserve the formation of the line for future use.
The station remained largely unchanged throughout its life, with just 2 platforms and a goods yard to the south. Demolition of the station began in the early 70s with the bulldozing of the station building, which was located on the Birmingham-bound platform. Bus stop type shelters were planned as a replacement, but they were never installed. Thanks to the creation of the linear park, construction of the West Midlands Metro began in the mid-90s, and West Bromwich Central tram stop was built on the site of the old railway station. A section of wall was saved, which still stands on the Wolverhampton side of the station.
Swan Village was opened in 1854 with the rest of the line to Wolverhampton and became a junction in mid-1860s with a connection to the line going to Dudley.
The branch to Dudley closed in 1964, with the rest of the line to Wolverhampton closing in 1972. Between 1959 and 1961, the station was rebuilt by Ray Moorcroft. With the opening of the West Midlands Metro, Swan Village was not rebuilt, instead replaced by 2 different tram stops nearby, Black Lake to the north and Dudley Street Guns Village to the south. There is a level crossing on New Swan Lane near the old Swan Village station, which was the scene of a tram crash in June 2006. Trams in the United Kingdom follow a different signalling system to trains. Vertical white lights mean that the tram can go, whereas horizontal white lights mean that the tram must come to a stop before that point. Typically, when a tram approaches, the traffic lights for road traffic will turn red, the tram signal will clear, and the tram will pass safely across. On the rare occasion, the tram will be held for a short time. On the fateful day, the tram signal was held at stop, but the driver failed to bring the tram to a halt, colliding with the taxi, which had a green light, which then collided with the truck coming in the opposite direction. Fortunately, only 2 passengers in the taxi were taken to hospital and released within 2 hours. Neither the driver of the tram or the truck or any of the passengers were injured. It was discovered that the tram driver had previously passed a stop signal when he left the depot for the first time on his own and was given further training. 1 month before the accident, he was given a driving assessment where no driving issues were reported. It was found that he didn't use a hazard brake, presumably due to the requirement for it to be reported to control and an incident form being completed at the end of duty. These days, if you want to test your resilience to gonorrhea or chlamydia, you can pick up this free sofa, mattress or fridge freezer.
Next station along is Wednesbury Central, which opened in 1854 and closed in 1972 with the rest of the line to Wolverhampton.
This was one of 2 stations to serve Wednesbury, the other being Wednesbury Town on the rival South Staffordshire line, which passed underneath the Snow Hill to Wolverhampton line just to the east. The station was originally called Wednesbury until 1950, when it was given its name of Wednesbury Central. Although the station itself closed in 1972, the area around the station remained open with freight traffic lasting until 1993, including the connection to the South Staffordshire Railway. In 1995, works began on the West Midlands Metro and a tram stop called Wednesbury Great Western Street was opened with the line in 1999.
Just to the east of here is a new connection for a branch going down to Dudley and then on to Brierley Hill.
In 2017, works began to clear vegetation in the old track of the South Staffordshire line to Dudley, with the real hard work beginning in 2021. The original estimate was 268 million, with an opening date of 2023. With the cost now reaching 449 million, is it open yet?
Of course not, don't be stupid, we're talking about Birmingham.
Just to the south of the station were the Brunswick sidings, which include the link between the South Staffordshire line and the Great Western Railway, which closed in 1993. The site was redeveloped into the only depot for the West Midlands Metro. Bradeley and Moxley Station is one of the odd one-out stations of the line, only opening in 1862 and closing in 1915 during the First World War. The station never reopened due to the sparse population of the area, as you can tell in this picture. Shortly afterwards, a loop line was built on the site of the Birmingham platform. By the 1960s, housing in the area was increasing dramatically. However, this came at a time when the government was too busy closing lines to notice. The line through the section remained open for freight until 1992 to serve a small goods yard just east of Bilston. When the West Midlands Metro was built, a new stop was built on the other side of Bradeley Lane, called Bradeley Lane.
The next station along is Bilston Central. The station opened with the rest of the line in 1854 and closed in 1972.
Bilston remained largely unchanged until 1971, when the main station building was demolished, with the station closing 1 year later. Freight traffic continued as far as the Wolverhampton Steel Terminal until 1983, when the line was cut back to just east of the station. In the mid-90s, works began to build the West Midlands Metro, with a new tram stop called Bilston Central built a couple of hundred yards west with staggered platforms. The site of the goods yard to the south is now an industrial estate.
Priestfield Station was also opened in 1854. However, the line through here had opened in 1852 through the Stourbridge via Dudley.
The station remained largely unchanged until 1962, when the line to Dudley closed. 10 years later, passenger services to Snow Hill were withdrawn. The line remained open for freight until the early 1980s. In the mid-90s, works began on converting the old line to the West Midlands Metro, with the new Priestfield tram stop being opened on the other side of George Street. After Priestfield, the old line continues underneath the A41 to reach Wolverhampton Low Level, whereas the new line climbs up and then joins the A41 to reach Wolverhampton George Street and Wolverhampton train station. On the other side of the A41, the track bed has been converted into a footpath.
Just behind me is the site of Walsall Street Goods Depot, which opened, I'd imagine, roughly in the 1850s with the rest of the line. The depot closed in the mid-1960s and was converted into a steel terminal in 1966. It retained its connection until 1983 with the Great Western Railway, when it was severed and connected instead to the Stour Valley line, which is right next door.
In order for trains to access the steel terminal from the north, trains could simply use the South Staffordshire line to Wednesbury to join the Great Western Railway to the steel terminal. When the line was cut back to Bilston in 1983, trains from the north had to go the long way round via Bescot, Smethwick and Dudley Port.
Immediately after the steel terminal, the line dives underground to reach Wolverhampton Low Level via a tunnel. The tunnel mouths are still there, although as you can tell, it's a bit of a cesspool on the approach. I know, Wolverhampton, a cesspool in a cesspool. And finally, we come to Wolverhampton, home of Slade, led by Noddy Holder. Shut up!
In 1854, the station was opened with one through platform split into two and two bay platforms just to the south. However, this layout soon proved inadequate. So in 1871, a new layout with a new platform just to the north and a connection for the line to Walsall was built. One problem is that the low-level station built by the Great Western Railway was built right next to the high-level station built by the London North Western Railway, at a time when railway companies were less than pleasant to each other.
Dear sir, please go fornicate thyself.
In the 1960s, the rival Stour Valley line was being electrified, meaning a lot of trains were routed via the former Great Western Railway to Snow Hill. More surprising, Dr. Richard Beeching wanted to keep the line, noting how important the line was. Many destinations used to be served from Wolverhampton Low Level, including Birmingham, Paddington, Torquay, Portsmouth, Penzance, Margate, Minehead, Weymouth, Bournemouth, Worcester, Cardiff, Reading, Newquay, Birkenhead, Welshpool, Chester, Aberystwyth, Pwllheli, Crewe, Hereford, Folkestone, Oxford and Stratford-upon-Avon. Whoops! With electrification of the Stour Valley line complete, services towards Shrewsbury were diverted into the high-level station, leaving the low-level station with just a shuttle service to Snow Hill. This lasted until 1972, when all passenger services were withdrawn, leaving the station for freight and parcels. To the northwest was a connection with the line to Stafford, which ended at a turnback. In the mid-1980s, this was replaced with the Oxley cord, which only ever sees freight traffic. However, all was not lost for Wolverhampton Low Level. The station was listed as Grade 2 on the 25th of March 1986. It remained as the British Rail Divisional Engineers Department until it was purchased by the Wolverhampton Metropolitan Borough Council in May 1986, who immediately renovated and preserved the outside of the station building. There were numerous plans for the station in the 80s and 90s, including reopening the station and converting the station into a transport museum. Redevelopment of the site began in the mid-2000s. The building was converted into a banqueting hall and wedding venue. The southbound platform, however, was demolished and now features a block of flats, hotel and supermarket. The southern approaches to the station, however, are completely overgrown.
And there we have it. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the video. Just before I go, here's a little clue as to what line I'll be doing next. If you know what the answer is, then please put it in the comments, your guess, and you win a thumbs up. Until next time, have a lacquer day.